The big problem I see is that the individual members, whether they're state representatives or state senators, are delegating their power to the leadership.
Yeah,
and
rather
that goes
than
on
the
both sides of
Exactly.
the
And
rather than the people's power. This,
I mean,
this is what I'm upset with.
Sorry about that. I see what Miles means on balance, and I mean, right now the balance is tipped in favor of the Democratic Party. So I feel that if we want to restore balance, we might as well encourage such balance by electing members of the Republican Party.
True. All right. Well, we still have maybe 2 more races to talk about, and we're going to come back and talk about the ballot questions, which are very, very big questions this year. We are going to take a quick break. You're watching Greater Bridgewater in our election special, joined by Adam Tomasi, Matt Albanese, and Corey Welch right here on Greater Bridgewater, and I'm your host, Miles Heeger. Welcome back to Greater Bridgewater and our election special, joined in studio by co-host Adam Tomasi, also joined by former West Bridgewater Selectman Chair Matt Albanese and Corey Welch, a candidate for state rep in the 5th Plymouth District. Guys, we've had some very good discussion about the governor's race, campaign ads, also just speaking about the state auditor's race. Why don't we jump in now and quickly talk about the state treasurer's race? That pits Democrat Steve Grossman and Republican Karen Polito against each other. And Matt, you can share a little bit about Steve Grossman. He was the former Democratic National Chair, if I'm correct.
A longtime Democrat and a former candidate for governor a few election cycles back. So running for elected office isn't anything new to Steve. And Adam had mentioned earlier the need for transparency in government, and here's one candidate that wants to put the state budget online. So that's a whole novel concept, and it'll be interesting to see if Steve gets elected, how that exactly plays out and what the response is from the residents.
And Corey, Karen Polito?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Karen. I met her. She's got a lot of fire. She's got a lot of fight. She's the girl that won't take any nonsense from anyone. So,
I'll pose this question to you before we really start to move on. Karen has presented the no pensions for politicians. What do you think about that? Well, Corey, you can take the floor for quickly, and then Matt.
I support no pensions for politicians. I believe it's a service we do where our duty is to represent, not get rich off the backs of the taxpayers. I believe that obviously when you're offering these perks, that it gives people too much of an incentive to try to get entrenched and stay too long. And that's kind of what I want to stay away from. I want to kind of go back to the citizen representation.
Matt?
A little bit of an opposite take, with all due respect to Corey. I think pensions are a good idea, or some form of retirement benefit. And I think it's because you want to have citizens who are, whether they're in the legislature or in other constitutional offices, that take their job seriously and make it their full-time priority. I don't think we want it to become something that only the wealthy or the upper 1% is going to afford and treat it as a hobby. That would be my concern.
I'd be for a 401k.
Okay.
Well, I mean, in the case of pensions for politicians, I agree with Corey and Karen Polito entirely that politicians do not deserve pensions as long as they're getting paid twice the amount that the average private sector worker gets paid. And I mean, as what Matt said about how they deserve it, so they take their job seriously. I think that's kind of like a carrot and stick tactic, saying that like if they just get a big pension, then they'd represent citizens effectively. Yeah, I think that representatives and senators should focus primarily on representation, not on getting rich off the backs of taxpayers.
How do you feel this race pans out? Matt, I'll give you the floor first.
I think all of these races are going to be very close, and a lot of it's going to depend on turnout. And from what I'm hearing, it looks as if, because Massachusetts is just such a democratic state, you're probably going to see a bit of a muted turnout compared to what's going on in the rest of the country. If that's the case, I think you're going to see Steve Grossman prevail. I think you'll see Suzanne Bum prevail, and probably some of our other congressional and local candidates that are Democrats.
In what seems to be an anti-incumbent year, and also a year that many, and it always happens at the mid-year elections. You saw it in 2007 under the George Bush administration. You saw it in 2003, 2004. Do you think the anti-incumbent and also the voter anger will have anything to do with this race?
I think the larger races it will, and I don't want to take up too much time on this topic without hearing from Adam and Corey, but I I think it's different for the local races. When you get down to state senate, state representative, those tend to be more community-based and personality-based races. So that dynamic is going to be different. You won't have the coattails.
Corey, quick thoughts on the treasurer's race?
I am pulling for Karen Polito. I mean, this is one of those years Matt just touched on it. You just don't know what's going to happen. You know, I have, unfortunately, Massachusetts voters haven't given me any real, faith per se as far as making informed decisions or trying to look at, the balances of power in this state. And I just think that if, the people paid a little bit more attention and realized that other states, I've done a little research on some other states, and I found that, states that do well typically are more balanced.
All right, so now I think that we should move on to the Attorney General's race. So how do you all think Martha Coakley's campaign has affected her election results? I mean, I've seen that she's run a few television ads, and I haven't seen her campaign too much, but I mean, I'm sure that I'm uncertain about the election results concerning her and Jim McKenna. What are your thoughts?
Well, I don't know. I mean, Jim McKenna got over 27,000 write-ins on the ballot. That goes to show you something. That's never been done before. So there's obviously that anti-Martha Coakley left over from the Scott Brown election. And that's another one of those races where you just don't know. I just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, common sense is going to tell me that Martha Coakley will probably still get elected, but at the end of the day, I just don't see people who voted for Scott Brown showing up and not voting against Martha Coakley again. That's just my rationale.
Matt?
Well, again, it comes down to turnout. In this race, you haven't heard much other than Jim McKenna, is running. He's the opponent. Any opponent that's challenging an incumbent is a credible candidate automatically. But I think Attorney General Coakley will end up pulling this race out, and it might be one of the more larger margins as far as contested races go.
So now on Jim McKenna, Martha Coakley's opponent. Now, do you guys think that he's a qualified candidate? I mean, I've spent a lot of time campaigning for Jim. I mean, I was at the Kingston precincts 1, 2, and 3, holding a sign trying to get people to have ballot stickers, for his campaign.
I think representing the next generation, if I can throw myself in with the three of you, I would argue that anyone that runs, that has the perseverance, the wherewithal, and the character, and believes in public service is a credible candidate. So I certainly would never hold that against him because he hasn't held office or lacks some sort of prerequisite.
I agree with Matt on this. If you got the gall to get up there and put your name on the ballot, or get out there and put yourself in front of the public eye like this, then I think that you're a qualified candidate.
Very good. Let's move on to the ballot questions. Adam, you know a little bit about question 2, but we'll quickly jump into 1. Question 1 for the folks who aren't really aware is the getting away with, eliminating the alcohol sales tax. Where do you guys stand on question 1? What are some of your thoughts and input on question 1?
I think as a Democrat, we get wrongly tagged as the party that likes taxes and favors taxes. In this instance, if you were to have a rollback of that proportion, and granted question 1 is just applying to the tax on alcoholic beverages, it's going to create an additional burden and require even further and deeper cuts, and I don't think we can afford that. That's not to say that the residents can afford more taxes either, but I just think it's an ill-moved effort. And I'm not a big fan of the ballot question process to begin with. I think if people are unhappy with their public policy process, they need to change their leadership.
Corey?
I would support the removal of the alcohol tax. Personally, alcohol is already it's a triple tax now?
It's a double tax.
Yeah. More importantly, I feel very sorry for our border states. Now it's just that much more reason for people to cross the borders and go to New Hampshire and purchase alcohol.
Now, someone was, I've heard from many people that in regards to this tax, the state troopers in Massachusetts are pulling people over as they cross the border coming back and taking away a lot of the alcohol they have, or they have to pay the tax on it. So if this tax is done away with, which it could go either way, what do you think the result of that will be?
I'm wondering how they're enforcing that. What do they?
They
file a receipt with the Department of Revenue or something?
My guess is to embarrass the governor because he's in favor of flagman instead of paid details.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, on the case of
That's
the
another
alcohol tax, I believe that Corey's right. It is a very unfair double tax on top of federal and state excise taxes. You know, I mean, that's horrible for the sake of the taxpayer. And I also demand more transparency in the sake of funding, because if this funding's going to substance abuse, then okay. But if it's going into the slush fund to sales tax revenue, then I wouldn't be able to tolerate it.
Just real quick, Adam brings up a great point on funding and where money goes. If anyone's ever looked at the state budget, they're all line items, and they're single line items that are in the millions, if not billions. You can't possibly know where every dime is being spent, and I think that is troublesome, especially for those legislators that are voting on these issues, never mind the voting public who is paying the taxes.
Question
so it's a
two.
good point.
We'll keep moving along with only a few minutes left. Briefly, Adam, describe question 2, and then, guys, we'll get your quick input on it.
So question 2 is the repeal of 40B, which is an affordable housing law, which was passed to make sure that rich communities would include affordable housing. It's pretty much like to demand when building projects are made to make sure that there's at least a certain percentage of affordable housing involved. But what I was really worried about is that the Massachusetts Inspector General said that it was one of the most corrupt laws in state history. So I think that's a point that should be brought up.
Quickly, in support or against 40B, because we would like to move on to question 3.
Support 40B, more oversight on the contractors.
Repeal.
Repeal. Okay. Question 3, which could be one of the most important questions. Many people are upset. Question 3 would reduce the state sales tax from 6.25 to 3%. Briefly, 30 seconds each, what are your thoughts on question 3? Corey, we'll start with you.
Well, you know, when does it ever end in the state? It's always a tax. Is it going to be 7%, 7.25%? Who knows? I mean, my theory is on it. We need to send a message to Beacon Hill. I mean, there's millions of news articles about the patronage hires, the corruption. No one knows where our money goes in this state. So I say we send a message to them, force them to look at why they're raising taxes rather than just raising taxes, and make local aid a fully funded mandate first, rather than top down. I say bottom-up funding.
Matt.
One of the biggest misnomers in Massachusetts is we're somehow this most taxed state referred to as Taxachusetts. If you look at combined taxes, whether it's sales tax, income tax, property tax, we're actually in the middle of the pack nationwide, and I think that's lost on a lot of people. That doesn't mean we're all happy to pay taxes, but the tax burden could be much more aggressive and burdensome as it is in some other states throughout the country.
Gentlemen, 30 minutes is done. Would like to thank you. Adam, thank you for coming. Matt Albanese from West Bridgewater and Corey Welch. Good luck on your campaign, Matt. We know you will probably be right back in the swing of things soon. Would also like to thank all of my guests on Greater Bridgewater and our candidate conversations. As when you see this episode, this is the last of our candidate conversations and election special. We will be on the road, hitting the road in the following months to come. Thank you for watching. I'd like to thank Adam Tomasi, Matt Albanese, and Corey Welch. I'm Miles Heeger, your host, and have a great day.